I suppose the theme of this evening, keeping young people in the game, is complex. To begin with, we have the game. As far as I'm concerned, we have the game of hurling, which is the best game in the world as far as I'm concerned. And our first challenge in keeping them in the game is to get them playing the game. So, we start them off, introduce them to the game. It's a difficult game to play, so to give them the basic skills that they can enjoy it is definitely our first challenge. Our next challenge then, and Pat alluded to it earlier, is to give them a game. Because if we don't give them a game, they won't stick at it. And once we give them games, then we have some chance of holding on to them. I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine was sub, which he was normally a sub on a team, and he was standing on the sideline, and someone jibed in and said to him, "Do you love hurling?" And your man turned around and he says, "I die for the game." And after a moment or two, he turned again, he says, "If I could get a game." And, that's the kernel of the whole thing. If we can provide the games, give them games, I think we will keep people at it. So if I have a little quick look back maybe at the year and see, on the swing swung or the seesaw of sport, where is our game, where is hurling? And if we have a quick look at some of these counties, we take Galway and we take Waterford. I don't have to say where they are. The game of hurling is at an all-time high. It's unbelievable, the skill. And I'd say if you haven't actually played the game, it's probably difficult to realise how high the skill actually is at the moment. But anybody played it at any level, I would say would look out in that field sometimes and say, how in the name of God do people survive out there? The level has gone so high. We had Limerick and we had Kerry winning under 21 A and B, and we had Wicklow in the B final, and it was a tremendous occasion for them to get down there to Thurles and be part of that. Then we had the Ring Rackard and Mar finals, and we had Carlow, Derry, Warwickshire, who just, it was an unbelievable year for them. I put down Leitrim there as well, because Leitrim hurlers got to play out here. Now, I don't know when they played out there last, but that has to be a memory forever for them. I have a little spot left then for my good friends, Wexford. I know Galway got the McCarthy Cup, but I think Wexford got a better kick out of killing poor old Kilkenny below Wexford Park there one evening. And, I had a buzz in the 2 ears. One ear was buzzing with sadness at seeing poor old Kilkenny beaten, but to look out on the field and to see the pleasure that the people of Wexford got when they finally slayed the giant was tremendous. And I was nearly home, and I rang a friend of mine and I congratulated her about an hour after the match, and she was still in the field. And that's the game that we have. Nobody in the world has that game. So it's probably fair to say that hurling is on the crest of a wave. But my job is hurling development, and like being a manager of a team, you have to look on the field with two eyes. You can't just look with one eye. And I would say we're only seeing half the picture when we say hurling is on the crest of a wave. Because, again, it's been my privilege to be around the country for the last 12 months or so. And I've been to most counties and I've seen a lot happening. And I would have to say that while maybe half the country is on the crest of a wave, half the country are hanging on for dear life. And that is the reality, and that is our challenge. And the one message I would like to get across tonight is that hurling needs help, and it needs lots of help, and it needs it quick. Because, again, I have met so many during the year, people all over the country, pockets here, pockets there, pockets everywhere. And actually, I am embarrassed going into some places because the dedication that some people have, I'm not so sure I could match it if I lived in those areas. But, so many people are paddling against the current. And we go back to the beginning and we talk about retaining players. So in order to retain players, we've got to be able to give them games. But in order to give them games, we need a games program, a meaningful games program. In order to have that, we need teams. And we can't have teams unless we have players. And needless to say, we can't have players unless we have people like yourselves that are prepared to go down to the fields every other evening and get youngsters playing. So, this is our challenge. I have a wish, and you might laugh at this, but I have a wish that hurling participation in every county will be at least at the level of, and wait for it, football participation in Kilkenny. And you might laugh at that, but I did a little, if you want to call it a survey there during the year, and I was shocked actually to discover that there's possibly 15 counties in the country that have 10 or less adult hurling teams. And if you run down a little bit, there are 8 counties, I think, with 5 or less adult hurling teams. And then you ask yourself, how can people have meaningful games? And you see the frustration of people that are involved in the game and people that are playing the games. Now, if I compare that with Kilkenny football, and you won't believe it, but it is the truth. Last year there were 25 clubs fielded an adult football team. 30 clubs fielded a juvenile team. Just to pick out minor level, there were 18 clubs took part in minor, which meant you could have 2 divisions, you could have 3 divisions, and you could still have a meaningful programme. Now, it was up to clubs then how much to put into it. But when you have the teams, when you have the players, well, then you can have a programme of games. And this is our challenge. 51 primary schools in Kilkenny take part in coming amongst called football, which allows the organisers to run maybe 5 different divisions, so you can play at your level. And this is our challenge. Now, I was reading a book there lately about the World War, and I'm intrigued with some of the things in the war, armies, the way they're able to organise themselves, the cruelty of people, but most of all, the resilience of people. And the one I'm reading at the moment is about, during the World War, how people helped escape POWs and downed aircraft drivers or pilots to get across the Pyrenees from France down into Spain. And one lady, there was one chapter in the book, was how one lady, almost on her own, was responsible for getting 200 people to safety. That is unbelievable. With great danger, her own life being under threat the whole time. Unbelievable. And that brings me on to something else you might laugh at, but that's a treasured possession of mine. It's a football medal, believe it or not. And if I was to make little of it, I could say it's the lowest grade of a football medal in the whole world. None of you out there have one, I'm sure of it. It's a special junior football medal in Kilkenny. But it meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to the other lads that won it, because I was just gone 21 for the second time when I won it. And that was won in a replay, in extra time in a replay. And we played the first half, or the second half of the match with 13 players. But anyway, that's another word. But it was played against our neighbours who were actually a total football team, so it was treasured. But anyway, the point I'm making is the winning of that little medal all came down to one person. We had one man in the club, he was from Laois, and he was enthusiastic about football, and he looked after the team and he got us playing. And the same year, we won the junior. And the year after, the better players went on and won intermediate football. And 2 or 3 years after, they won the senior. And that all came down to one person. Dick Mullins is his name, a lunatic. But, a lunatic in the right way. He'll wreck your head with football. And, at the time, some of us thought maybe the football will affect the hurling, but it actually helped it. This was deadly. So, my message again is, it's an appeal for help in the areas where there's not much hurling. Appeal for help, and the people that are best placed to help are actually football people. Because, they know the players, they're used to coaching, they're used to training, and I had the privilege of being up in North Meath there before Christmas, up near the Cavan border, where in the catchment area of about 5 football clubs, a few people have got together and they said, we're going to do a little bit of hurling. And I think Peter Durnan is heading them up there, and they've come together and they did a little bit of indoor during the Christmas or up to Christmas, and as the year goes on, they're going to do maybe, we'll call it 15 or 20 Saturdays and get it going. And, down the line I'll be hoping then that will spring up in all parts of the country, and little by little we'll get more clubs. And again, it's fair to say, this myth about hurling affecting football and football affecting hurling, Schlockneil have blown that out of the water. And I'd take my hat off to them if I had a hat. They can show that not only can the 2 games sit side by side, but they have brought it to a level which is about 20 times ahead of where I would be happy if we got it. So, again, I would ask you, if you're not doing it already, will you help to make your own county self-sufficient when it comes to hurling, that we can have enough teams, that we can have a meaningful programme of games, and enough teams to do that. So, looking back at the little lady that was helping the POWs to get across the Pyrenees, they said, hurling needs you. And it would be a shame in a few years' time if hurling dies away in certain areas of the country, to have your children or your grandchildren asking you and saying, Daddy or Mammy, what did you do for hurling? So that is my appeal to you this evening. And the question is often asked, you know, we have no experience in coaching hurling. How can we do it? It's not easy. But it's not hard. Thank you very much.